UFO that crashed on Spitsbergen in the Arctic Ocean in 1946 was found in the cold expanses of the Arctic Ocean. North of mainland Europe lies the remote Norwegian archipelago Svalbard. That's where we have the seed bank, as we know. Much of the land is covered by glaciers and almost perpetual night during the cold winter months. It's a sparsely populated, largely untouched realm of breathtaking natural beauty, and is also the site of a number of very strange phenomena and UFO crashes. The first of two UFO incidents in the Svalbard area reportedly occurred in 1946, when American General James Doolittle was sent there by Shell Oil Company to investigate strange aerial phenomena that were occasionally seen in the area. Journalist Dorothy Kilgallen later claimed that General Doolittle had discovered a mysterious object off the coast of Spitsbergen, a UFO that had fallen from the sky. This item was loaded onto the USS Alabama and taken somewhere, and then the US and the British governments hid anything related to this find. Dorothy Kilgallen died in 1965, and it's now impossible to know who she got all this information from. However, in 1952, the story of UFO activity over Spitsbergen continued. In June 1952, a squadron of 6 Norwegian jet aircraft began summer maneuvers over Spitsbergen, and as they were in Hinlopen Strait, the radio communications began to crackle and transmit static. And then they were cut off completely, leaving them unable to communicate with each other. At the same time, the radio showed that an unknown object was rapidly approaching the fighter jets, but the pilots themselves did not see anything visually, and they circled the area for some time, not seeing anything unusual. And then Air Force Captain Olaf Larsen had happened to look down and saw a metal disc, 40 to 50 meters in diameter, it's about 150 feet, lying on the snowy ground directly below them. And it was quite bright and stood out among the snowy landscape. Further inspection revealed that the drive was damaged, and the saucer was damaged, and the craft was damaged, and some components and cables were protruding from it. The pilots reported the object found when they returned to base, and a mission was then sent to the crash site. Later, the German newspaper Saarbrücker Zeitung published a report on what was found. And it stated, a close examination of the remote-controlled flying saucer in Nordøstland, Svalbard, due to the interference problems led to the following undisputed information. The flying object with a diameter of 48.88 meters and sloping sides is round in shape and was unmanned. A round steel object made of an unknown metallic compound resembling a silver disc. Once ignited, 46 auto-injectors equally spaced around the outer ring spin a disc around a central plexiglass ball containing remote-controlled measuring and control devices. And the report goes on to say, now, the flying object, reminiscent of one of the legendary flying saucers, has enough space for bombs. They say that in the wreckage of the device, an expert discovered a radio pilot transmitter with a plutonium core that emits on all wavelengths with a frequency of 934 hertz, which is unknown until now. The investigation also revealed that the flying saucer crashed due to a malfunction of the radio pilot system. There was no crew. Norwegian experts suggest that the disc may have come from the Soviet Union. The strange unmanned craft was to be taken to Narvik by ship for further investigation, end quote. That's what the article wrote. But the story continues to unfold. As more people became aware of it, new details emerged, including a report by Colonel Gernod Darnhill of the Norwegian General Staff. Quote, some time ago, there was a misunderstanding when they said that the flying saucer was probably of Soviet origin. However, we must categorically state that it was not manufactured by any country on Earth. These materials are completely unknown to all experts. Either they do not exist in Earth or are processed by physical or chemical processes unknown to us. And he goes on to say, we need to tell the public what we know about UFOs. Inappropriate secrecy can only one day lead to panic. Now we have some materials to start with. This means that the laboratories can start working immediately and can give us preliminary results soon. Norwegian scientists believe that the material from Svalbard, the UFO crash there, can reveal its secrets only through nuclear fission. This is because it does not change either at absolute zero when air liquefies or at the highest temperature technically possible with our technology. All types of chemical treatments were also tested on this. The scientific results were to be published only after the UFO conference in London or Washington. Soon, more fantastic stories related to the UFO crash in Svalbard appeared, such as a report in the El Nacional newspaper. This report championed the Norwegian scientist Hans Larsen Loberg, made it clear that the craft had crashed on the German North Sea island of Heligoland and was definitely not Soviet, as it had no discernible engines or rivets, fuses or bolts, and the object was supposedly powered by magnetic forces, quote unquote. Loberg also reportedly stated that there were some sort of beam weapons on board, as well as the remains of actual humanoid bodies. The material was as light as aluminum, but much harder and probably much more resistant to heat. Of the items found inside, they noticed water that was 3 times heavier than normal water, and several tablets that might have been food. There were also a device that was probably a radio. It was quite small and had no antenna. They also found several books, probably navigational instructions, written in a completely unknown language. The spaceship doors were open. Just outside the doors were 7 bodies burned beyond recognition. According to Larsen Loberg, scientists are of the opinion that the bodies belonged to men between the ages of 25 and 30, about 1.65 meters tall, and all had perfect teeth. Loberg thought that the reason for the crash of this vessel must be that it was affected by the explosions of the American hydrogen bomb. All this was buried in the following decades, and the newspapers, which until then wrote about these issues, were ordered by the well-known, people that usually bury these things, not to write about these things, such issues. And for half a century, they mocked them because this craft belonged to the Nordic aliens, who this race of people who wanted to cover these things up didn't want to expose what was happening. This I've translated from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.